For many, the first thought after seeing a trial chamber is its similarity to the ancient city. After all, they're both new challenges put in the game by Mojang that are structures found in the Deep Slate lair. However, how similar actually are they? Let's quickly compare. That is something important to share because looking at the trial key, it's clear the bottom has its representation from the trial chambers, but the top looks something much more like an ancient city. Does this key represent a bridge between the two and perhaps even an answer to the question about the ancient city portal? And also, what was this Minecraft developer hinting when he said there's a new experiment coming to preview and beta realms next week with this cryptic image? Well, hello, I'm Toycat, and this is Q&A Saturday, the series where I answer your biggest questions from the week before, and the first one here from Anime Forever 5069 is comparing trial chambers to ancient cities because they both seem very gigantic, and I thought this was true too, but I decided to do a little bit of measuring, and the measurement of the floor space after walking from end to end is 26,240 meters squared, whereas for the trial chambers, this is 4,720 meters squared, even when you include the void space between all of the chambers. In other words, this means that the ancient city is at least 5 times larger than the trial chambers, and so the trial chambers might feel huge, but apparently when it comes to Minecraft structures, there's huge structure, and then there's ancient city huge structure, and so the other comparison is the fact that they're both found in the Deep Slate lair. However, the ancient city is always found at lair 51, whereas the trial chamber can be found anywhere in that 64 block radius, including all the way down at Bedrock, which is a weird experience when you get to fighting down here. Anyway, this is a very interesting seed, but I also have to talk about the other interesting fact that compares these two structures, because something that people immediately started saying, lots of comments from lots of people, was that while people seem to be focused on the copper key end of the key, I can't ignore the handle looking so deep darky. Maybe we need one key for each reinforced deep slate of the ancient portal / gate thing. That black and teal handle is just too samey, and I totally see what you're saying here. The top of this key really can look like an ancient city, and I really love the idea of, yeah, in the same way that we have to get lots of IF enders to fill up a regular portal, what if you had to slowly unlock each of the ancient city chambers one by one? This would require you to go to lots of trial chambers and would explain the relative rarity gap between the ancient city, which is very hard to find, and the trial chambers, which spawn not everywhere, but more frequently than strongholds and almost as frequently as abandoned mineshaft, and so this would be a perfect explanation. Is this what I'm seeing though? Well, I mean, when I look at the key, if I try to go into it without the bias that like, yeah, it kind of looks like a warden, I look at this and all I can see, no matter what I try, is a stray gobbling down on a lightning rod. That is not to say I think that's officially what it is. However, there are lots of interpretations of what you might see here. Is this just a link to the trial spawners themselves? Or is it maybe even less abstract than that, and all it's meant to represent is it's a key that you get from killing mobs? This could certainly be true, but it also could certainly be true that this was designed from the ground up specifically to look like a cross between the Deep Dark and the trial chambers, a perfect, way to fuse 1.19 and 1.21, the ancient city and the trial chamber, two underground structures that are brand new coming together to make something that's even better, because the ancient city by itself is fun, the trial chambers by itself is fun. What if you could somehow combine those challenges? And I think that the portal using the keys actually makes more sense than the IF Ender frames in the end portal. Personally, I could see this being great, but I also am 100% willing to admit that this is something I want to believe. I'm starting to believe it more and more and more as I talk myself through it. However, it's also worth mentioning that there are a billion things that Mojang could be doing with the key. It could just be something incredibly minor, like the ability to lock and unlock chests, and I feel like the greatest example of this is the mystical cucumber in the ancient city. People had such high hopes for that, but ultimately it's just used to make a respawn compass, and most people look at that and say, and kind of move on with their day. However, that is something that you'd be excited about if you didn't hype yourself up for, and so in the same way, the trial chamber key just being used to unlock certain doors or maybe special chests actually is a very cool feature, but if you build up your expectations so high that basically nothing will please you, you're only guaranteeing your own disappointment. And by the way, a great comment up here is from Don't Look at Tax 333, which is, this is the perfect opportunity for a new type of weapon. If I was theory crafting to the max, going even higher than the idea of lighting up the ancient city portal, I think the best idea if you were coming up from it with it from scratch would be that you could combine these trial keys, maybe with those echo shards in a 4-on-4 combination, a lot like Netherite, and you could make some copperite gear, which would be, much better for PvE and those combat adventures, and I can do this all day. An interesting point comes in, by the way, from Dirty Dan 309, which is, I don't see the point of announcing a featureless feature. If they're going to announce a new item, then it should have a function, and I think this is kind of true given people's expectations, but also I think it's really really good for the community to be able to speculate. Something we've seen from all of these leakers, and the reason that Mojang is announcing more features ahead of time, is there is the right amount of announcement where we can speculate and where we can come up with decent ideas, and it's possible that some of those same ideas might make Mojang go, wait a minute, that's a really good one, we should totally take that on board. I mean, that's definitely what the realm feature that was teased earlier kind of comes from. Having community feedback on lots of things can make some positive changes. Speaking of, by the way, if there's any Mojang employees watching, there's one very important thing I think should get made from this, which is from Daniel Munoz 7421. 350 people agree that it would be great if they added a new armor trim that's unique to the Breeze trials. This would be quite fun. I would love it. If they're not going to have a direct Breeze drop, and I really do think they will, but even if they are, I think it would be really smart to have a 5% chance of a Breeze dropping a type of armor trim. This would encourage you to grind away at the trial chambers and would make whatever you have to do to get those trial keys just a little bit more fun. And also, again, I mean, if there's 2 structures in the deep slate layers, I think it's only fair if the ancient city gets 2. The least we can do for my boy the trial chamber is give him 1. Speaking of things we can do for the trial chamber, I did see a fair few complaints about the poison arrow skeletons. They're by far the worst mob in the range category, and genuinely, if you get those, especially with some baby zombies, you might reconsider and just try and find another trial chamber. It's something I genuinely consider. But speaking of things I've genuinely consider, Coffee, I guess, wishes the poison arrow skeleton had that mossy texture they had in the thumbnail. This is what that looked like, by the way, and I totally agree. I put that in the thumbnail specifically because they added a new type of skeleton we hadn't seen in Minecraft before, but he just looks like this. It's very hard to tell that anything's unique. A better communication of that is the mossy skeleton, which, by the way, I didn't make this up from scratch. This isn't a pure design. It's one Minecraft themselves has made, because as I will crusade for a billion times on this channel, Minecraft make a bunch of great designs for stuff like this, and then they seemingly waste 90% of it on the wrong game. But now that that game is discontinued, and now that we have a real use for a poison skeleton texture, I think either they're going to make one from scratch, or if they're not, here is an important Minecraft feedback post that I have voted on. You can do so like so. I can't link the posts or they get deleted. I can't make my own one or they get deleted, but if you go and search for Minecraft 1.21 trial poison skeleton idea, make it so they have a new unique dart shooter texture or leafy texture like Minecraft dungeon skeletons, and they could also spawn in jungles as well as the trial chambers. I don't know if they have to spawn in jungles. I just know I would love to see some unique texture for this guy so that you can actually see from a distance, oh god, that is someone you need to watch out for. Speaking of things you should watch out for, IBX Toycat, as you even see with the diamond tools, you have a hard time in the trial chambers. Also Toycat, within 24 hours of saying that, trying to beat the trial chambers with no loot. And it's true, I really enjoyed that stream, by the way. I think going into a trial chamber with absolutely nothing is one of the best combat tests that you can do right now, and especially trying to do it on hard or maybe even hardcore difficulty is a great way to really push yourself, which is something great that Mojang is doing. I love that something that you can do with diamond tools and struggle with is something you can technically do from scratch. And by the way, the actual secret to that is, well, this next comment here, which is overflowing with loot, because it's no joke, by the time I'd finished battling and looting every room in the structure, I'd filled several double chests with the stuff I nabbed, and that was basically my strategy in that video. It went really well the first time and not so well the second time, but ultimately if you get some decent loot, that loot can be good enough to take down your Breeze and skeleton chambers, and there's even enough food to just about survive in most of them, which makes it a really fun room. Speaking of the opposite of fun rooms, this is like school. I have to learn all of the new stuff, and this is a valid comment in response to all of the rooms and all of the things in the trial chambers. There's a lot going on in there, but ultimately you don't have to learn any of it. I think the great thing about hobbies and interests and weird things like this is you get to choose how much you want to learn. If you're really into Minecraft and learning about the updates, feel free and learn about it all, but if not, you can just go into a trial chambers now or next week or when 1.21 releases and just go in and do it yourself. In fact, this is something I'm a big advocate for on this channel, which is like basically wait till an update is fully finished and go into. However, despite that, I want to kind of announce something that, like, you know, just to have it on the record, that I used to believe this, and I still kind of do, that this is one of the better ways to experience an update once it's all put together and curated. But ultimately, in the YouTube sense of the word, people see the trial chamber as having released this week. People see the crafter as having been out for 2 weeks, and it's a very weird thing that the update is effectively releasing on a week-by-week schedule, even though people won't be playing it in their long-term worlds for another year to come. It does put me in an odd situation, but I think the best way to square this circle, rather than just pretending there are no snapshots, and rather than, pretending that there is no significance to the main update, is to go through each of these snapshots and kind of get as deep of a dive as we can into it, because this is the freshest way to see new features. And when it's something as fun as the trial chambers, every day I wake up and I'm like, what can I do with this? Well, I'll have some weird questions for the structure, and I'll just go out and find out some of the answers, and if they're interesting, I'll share them with you. It leads me down some really weird speculation paths, as you've seen in this video, but ultimately I think it's a good sign that we're so interested in these features as they're coming out. Speaking of good signs, by the way, a good sign that Mojang is doing a good job on an update, in my opinion, is when we get the traditional comment every update of "this is seriously getting out of hand. The game feels like modded in vanilla," which that is a sign that Mojang's actually innovating. Seriously, if no one says that, that means they made a boring update, which might as well have not come out. Speaking of boring update comments, this is a boring comment, but I'm glad I had so many. Haircut looks really clean. Thank you, Paris PC. And then it's a bit of a compliment because then they say, your hair was pretty bad before, not gonna lie. You know what, I appreciate that too. You know what, Paris PC? I'm gonna give you a compliment right back. I really like your profile picture. I seriously, I think meerkats are really cute, and this was a really good choice, especially given what your face probably has to look like if you're covering it up with a meerkat. Anyway, with that said, this final interesting piece of news this week came in from Corner Hard MC, which is I spy a new experiment coming to preview and beta realms next week. And as you can see, it's him standing next to a lit, ruined portal. So he's gone and he's finished that up with a spyglass in his hand. And this one took me a while to work out exactly what was going on. However, my best guess right now, given that David is the realms lead, is that this is likely to be an increase in the render distance for preview and beta realms, which means that next week's preview and beta will give us an opportunity to experience higher render distances. And if anyone out there also plays in a realm like me, my Let's Play and my Creative World are both stored in realms, it makes such a big difference every single time this goes up. We seriously, if it's Bedrock, we need this in the, the 30 or 40 or 50 chunk radius if I'm being picky, but I love every time it goes up. It is a massive improvement, and big thank you to David. He's done a really good job advocating for the players on realms. And speaking of things that have done a good job, you've done a good job watching this video, but the job is only half done, because I recently went independent on YouTube, which is very good for me. There's no contracts and there's nothing holding me down in that way, which is something I'm a big fan of. However, there's a bit of insecurity around everything on YouTube right now, and I'd appreciate you subscribing to the channel if you do like this sort of thing and want to see more. It would help me out a lot, and consider subscribing with notifications on, because there is an unlisted live streams playlist, but otherwise the only way to guarantee you see streams is with the bell for whatever reason. Either way, I hope you've enjoyed this video and you have now passed your trial. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.